We will define and explain vendor according to fundamental accounting principles. The definition of vendor is the seller of goods or services. So when we're talking about the vendor, we're talking about the person who is selling. This seems obvious, but it can be difficult to know which side of the transaction we are on. And this is especially true when we're talking about book problems, when we have to put ourselves into the actual problem. It's also the case that we could use different terminology such as the seller of the goods rather than the vendor of the goods. And we have to know this type of terminology as well. For example, if we have the purchase person who is purchasing on the left-hand side, we can also define that as vendee, a term that we don't see quite as often. We usually see the purchaser of the goods. But on the right-hand side, we have the seller of the goods, which we could define as the seller here, but also often described as the vendor. The vendor of the goods is a common term used in many business transactions. So it is important to know which side of this transaction we are on. The difference between these two words is slight in terms of the vendee, the person who is purchasing, and the vendor, the person who is then selling. We need to note the distinction between these two terms. Become one of our preferred vendor today at www.mpgpartnering.com.